All right, good morning, everyone. I am Stephanie Karpowitz with Junior Achievement of New Jersey, and you are joining us here today for our Executive Series webinar called A Day in the Life at Merck. And this is part 2 in a series that we have done. Today is all around spotlighting careers and lessons from Merck finance leaders. And last week we had our first session of the part 2 series, which was called Life and Career Lessons from New Finance Professionals. So if you missed that session and are interested in taking a look at that as a complimentary event to today's session, that recording will be shared in a follow-up to today's event as well. So today's presentation is in listen-only mode for our attendees. So please make sure that your computer microphones are on and are turned up, and you can make sure that you are closed out of any extra computer programs or VPN that might not be needed during the webinar, just to free up your bandwidth, and this will improve the audio quality. So this meeting is being recorded, and it is taking place. I am recording it live today from our Education Center in Edison, New Jersey. So for anybody who wants to use the Q&A, we certainly invite many questions that we will get to later on in the session. Use the Q&A box that's on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you can, feel free to send them directly to me, Stephanie Karpowitz, so I can make sure that I don't miss anything in case you send them to the whole group. So please feel free to send them to me. So with that, I am happy to introduce Catherine Malone, President of JA New Jersey. Catherine?
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Of course.
I'm connecting with you live from my home in Trenton, New Jersey. I wanted to start by acknowledging that given all that is happening in this nation and beyond, programs like this that make education accessible for our students is so vitally important. And at JA New Jersey, we represent equitable access to education, ensuring all youth have a voice. And it is our ultimate goal to help our children reach their absolute fullest potential. So Merck has been a tremendous partner throughout the years, investing both financial and volunteer resources to help build essential employability skills like problem solving and critical thinking in our youth. Through our JA's career readiness initiatives like our High School Hero and our Women's Future Leadership Forums for teens, Merck is fostering a culture of volunteerism and enabling JA to provide our programs at no cost to schools in New Jersey. Through financial empowerment programs like JA's Finance Park, Merck supports our students through critical life lessons around smart money management. And while JA has been pivoting to online programming this past 4 months, Merck took a true leap of faith and became one of our first partners in this pilot series. So to our panel today, we thank you so much for your time and for sharing with our students. Suwan and Dalton, we thank you for leading this valuable initiative. And on behalf of our team, we want to express our deepest gratitude for our dedicated board leaders who continue to champion our JA Merck partnership, panelists Melanie Nicholson, Jerome Holowich, and our moderator, Dalton Smart. So with that, Dalton, take it away.
Dalton is on mute.
Hey, Dalton, you look like you are on mute. There you go.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Catherine, for the kind words, Stephanie, as well. And really, thanks for having all of us here today. Our team really looks forward to sharing some life and career experiences with this group. Big shout out and thank you also to the JA students who are attending today. I know many of you are winding up your school years. You're beginning to head into your summer months, and I really credit you with taking a little bit of time to just learn from others. And I think, learning is a big part of life. And I really, the fact that you're taking time to do this, says a lot about yourselves. And I think you'll hear threads today from some of our speakers of ways that that many of us have focused on learning as part of our career and our career journeys. And hopefully you'll leave the session today with maybe just a few thoughts that you can think about when you're on summer vacation, maybe when you're on the beach, or you're just simply doing some things at home, and really reflect a little bit upon from where you've come, where you are right now, and as you set goals for the future, you can take a few learnings with you along the way. So just very quickly, a little about myself. I lead the internal audit group at Merck. We do a lot to bring new and early talent into the company in Merck. We hire out of universities. We hire early talent a couple years out of university. And in addition to doing our work, which is largely around helping improve the company and make it stronger and better, a big part of what we do is develop early talent. We coach and develop people in their careers and try to help people think about some of the things they need to think about as they enter the workforce, some of the challenges they face, and so there's so much connectivity with what I get to do every day in my job in JA. So I'm really happy to be here. A little about myself. I grew up in Pennsylvania. Both of my parents, maybe not a surprise, were both teachers. So I probably have a little bit of teaching in my background and who I am as well. But with that, I'm going to hand it over now to Caroline Litchfield, and maybe I'll have Caroline introduce herself.
Thank you, Dalton. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So good morning, everyone, and it really is my honor to be with you all here today. I work in the finance team here at Merck, and I have responsibility for treasury, tax, and investor relations. And as I think about my career, I thought I'd start with when I was 15 or 16 years old. And at that stage, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life. What I did know is I had a real passion for maths or mathematics. It was a subject I loved at school. It was a subject I was quite good at. So I thought, how could I use that skill that I had to help me in what my career choices may be, and to also do some good in this world? So actually, similar to the teaching blood in Dalton, my first thought was, should I be a teacher? And back in the UK, we did work experience at the age of around 16, where you would go into a work environment for between 2 and 4 weeks and shadow the workers in that environment and really get a feel for what life would be like if you chose to go down that career pathway. So I spent the best part of a month in a school, and I really enjoyed it and thought maybe that could be something for me. I progressed then on in my high school years, and I then did an internship at a public accounting firm, again, building on my mathematical skills, working in a more office environment, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the sort of the business and looking at the kind of impact that business was having. So that kind of got accounting in me, and from there I went on to university. I studied mathematics, so again, this theme of I was enjoying something, I wanted to do well at it, and I continued from there, graduated, and then qualified as an accountant, and I joined Merck in the UK subsidiary. And I honestly thought I'd be with Merck a couple of years. And here I am now, more than a quarter of a century later, more than you guys have all been alive. And I'm still with this great company. And during my career, I've had the opportunity to grow and learn each and every day. I worked in the UK subsidiary covering accounting, covering tax, covering providing financial advisement to the business as they were thinking through business choices. I moved across here to the United States back in 2001, another tough time, quite frankly, for the world. And that was an amazing experience for me at so many levels. I had the opportunity of implementing a finance technology across the globe that helped with treasury. I had the opportunity also to get to meet the movers and shakers in our company. And that was critical because it helped me build a network that enabled me then to have a support structure as I moved forward in my career. I then went back to the UK to become the head of finance for our UK business. I then moved to a regional role and became head of finance across the European region. So that helped me learn about different cultures, different businesses. I then moved to another region, which was emerging markets, which in all honesty has been one of the most pivotal roles in my career, where I truly learned the value of diversity, working in markets spanning from China, Asia, right through to Brazil and Africa in between. So I really learned the value of diversity, diversity of business models, diversity of thought, diversity of culture, and just the diversity of our wonderful people in our organization. I then came back to the United States 6 years ago and became head of finance for our global human health business. And that gave me an opportunity to bring all those learnings of those markets that I'd had experience in to the corporate headquarters, where we made choices around how we invest in our different countries, our different products, think about pricing across our portfolio, and of course, support the talent in our organization. And now today I am the treasurer of Merck, which is a true honor for me. I have the opportunity of working with great people. I have the opportunity of helping ensure Merck's got the right cash to support the important mission we have, which is to make sure we've got the best product that can really do good for humankind all around the world. And also to have the pleasure of supporting our talent agenda, as Dalton noted. The most important asset in our company is our people, and I'm proud to work for a company that truly cares about its people, both within our company, but also outside of our company, such as yourself. So with that, let me hand over to Mel.
Thank you, Catherine. Sorry, thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
That was phenomenal, and I just learned that we have quite a bit in common. So good morning, everyone, and again, thank you for inviting me to be on this panel. It really is a privilege to talk about our careers, background, learning. To you all, when I was where you are, I honestly learned so much from people like us and created my own vision of what that would be based on the examples that I heard. For me, I was actually born in Guyana, South America, came to the United States when I was 18 for college, pursued my passion, which I'll talk a little bit about as we go on in the panel, which is accounting and business. So for me, I actually started thinking about my career very early on. And I have been lucky to be in a career that I truly love and embrace. I joined Merck about 5 years ago, not quite 4.5 years ago, in the controllers organization. That organization is very focused on accounting and controls and reporting, right? We report out, we have a responsibility to report out to really the public, the people who own the company, right? To our shareholders and whatnot. So that role was very focused on accounting and controls. I did that for about 3 years. And now I am an executive director in our audit group where Dalton is the leader. And I have to say, piggybacking on what Caroline just said, continuous learning. I actually always thought I would be in accounting for my entire career, and that's what I would do. I would be on the controller's track. I would be the corporate control. That's kind of like my path. However, continuous learning, being open to new ideas and new opportunities, which will happen probably the day you're born until the day you die. You're going to continue to learn and grow and change, right? And so for me, coming into audit was actually a phenomenal opportunity where now I'm learning different things. I'm doing different things. It's broader than just finance and accounting. In our group, we're focused a lot on compliance, right? We're risk-based, looking at, you know, some of our risk mitigating strategies, or how do we protect our company from some of the risks and issues that exist. And I'm learning about that. And so again, the career journey, just a continuous learning for us all and for me. And I'm happy to be here. So thank you. So I will turn it to Sushil.
Hello everyone. Hope you can hear me well. It's very difficult to go after Mel and Caroline, but I'll try my level best. I will start. I'll steal the theme from Caroline. Start with the age of 15. And Caroline, you knew so much about yourself at the age of 15. I just didn't know anything about myself at the age of 15. I would be very honest. I chose kind of commerce, they call it in India back then. By the way, I was born in India. They call it commerce stream, which basically trains you in accounting and finance. And why did I choose that? I mean, in our family and extended family, there were about 8 chartered accountants back then. And I didn't find any fault in being the 9th one to add to that, to already those 8. So I went in that direction.
Students who are listening to me, probably I'm not the role model of strategic thinking at that age, but this is what it is. And I chose that stream at the age of 23. I was a chartered accountant. Um, I started to like it, of course, the world of finance then world of accounting. Um, for those of you who do not know what chartered accountancy is, kind of equivalent to CPA as they call it here. I'll start with my sort of current role and then I'll go back to my career journey. My current role here in Merck, as I'd like to call it, is I work in part of Merck where it all begins. By that I mean, me and my team, we work with an organization within Merck which is focused on human biology, researching diseases, finding new drugs, and developing those drugs, and then finally trying those drugs on a small group of patients before we can really do large-scale trials, and so that world can use those drugs. So in my role, as now you hear, I have a privilege of working with really top-notch scientists. So how do I fit in there as a finance person with scientists? I'm responsible for taking care of their financial matters. And of course, the official financial matters. And by that, I mean, I help them plan their spend. I ask them as to what are you going to spend on, what research activities do you want to do, and we help them plan their spend. We also help them understand the impact of their decisions, like financial impact of their decisions. So if you invest X, this is what the return will be. We also help account for all of their spend in our accounting systems, and Dalton and Mel come and check us whether we do the proper job of that or not from time to time. And finally, we at Merck have really high standards for compliance. So it is one of the responsibilities of any finance function is to make sure that the things are done in a very appropriate fashion and way. I must say I really, really, really enjoy this role, and I like it. And just being close to the gut of the company gives you, so much joy to work with this kind of organization. And as Caroline said, when we see all of that culminating into good for human beings in the end, it gives you so much satisfaction as while you work. So as I said, I started my career at the age of 23. Merck was just my second job. I did my first job for 3 years. So I'm with Merck now for 21 years, so reaching the quarter almost, yes. I joined Merck in India, worked in various capacities, and I was fortunate that, Merck developed me, gave me an opportunity to develop myself. I was there for about 8 years. And thereafter, Merck gave me an opportunity to work in Europe, in the Netherlands, where me and my family were there for about 4 years. And after my stint in the Netherlands, again in finance and accounting arena for last 8 years, here I'm in the US. So this is my third destination and hopefully final one. We've changed 11 houses in those 20 years, actually. And this is the only house that I actually own here. Uh, so I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed my journey. So when I reflect on my career quickly, it feels like a journey of personal growth through me. I think we heard about the theme of learning. There were a lot of learnings along the way. There was a lot of hard work. It almost feels like, you guys are thinking now I'll get a high school degree, I'll get a college degree, and the life will be set. It feels like to me the student life actually never left me. The learning just kept on and on and on. In Merck Finance, our leaders encourage us and sometimes even push us to go explore new areas. I tell you, quite frankly, when I took up this job, I had butterflies in my stomach, whether I would be up to it or not, because I was going to talk to scientific community. But you know what? When I look back, probably this is the best role I could have ever had. And I'm so happy that the company like Merck gives us these opportunities and to work for it. And not only just develop ourselves as professionals, but really like people who have broad understanding, and I'm so thankful for it. So I look forward to our interactions today. Thank you for having me here. Juanita, if you don't mind, could you please introduce yourself?
You're on mute, Juanita.
Sorry, I was on double mute phone and computer. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Juanita. I am here representing Treasury also. I'm part of Caroline's team. I've been here at Merck for over 25 years, and I really can't believe I've been here that long, like many others, but it's been very exciting. Within the Treasury space, as Caroline was saying, our responsibilities are to make sure that Merck has enough cash and just the right amount of debt to manage all the operations that we have. As I think back to the 25 years I've been at Merck, I've done a real variety of things. And, you know, it's funny when people ask me what I do and I say I work in finance, they always assume that I'm in accounting. And they're like, oh, do you have to close the books? And I always say, I know the least about accounting. So unlike many of my peers on the phone, I don't have that deep accounting background. And quite frankly, it's never been an interest of mine. But as Sushil was saying, there's so much more to contribute in the finance space, and there's such a variety. And over the 25 years I've been at Merck, I've done a really crazy variety of things to give you a sense as to what finance can be in the different forms. So I've done things like create joint venture businesses with another company. I've designed and implemented financial planning systems similar to what Caroline has done. I've done analysis to help the company make decisions about whether we should buy a business or sell a business. And all this stuff has been interesting. And I've even done strategy. So finance is not limited to what the obvious things are, like accounting, right? Or, you know, bankers. It's a lot of variety of stuff, and it can be interesting no matter what your particular focus is. So just to give you a little bit of pre-Merck background on me, I grew up in New York. I had a variety of jobs before I joined Merck, and I joined Merck after I went to business school. So I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. But today, I live in Basking Ridge, and unlike Sushil, I've lived in the same house for 20 years, which is great. I have 3 grown children. I raised them while I was working at Merck, so I was a working mom as a primary caregiver, and that's one of the great things about Merck. And I'd say, you know, as you think about what you want to do in the future, picking the right company is a hard thing to do, but really thinking about things besides the job, thinking about the company is important. And the last piece I'll add is I feel like I'm very connected with you all because I was actually in junior achievement when I was in high school. I think I was a junior, so I was probably 16 or 17 years old. So I feel like I'm connected with you guys. And I think it's an exciting thing that you're participating in this session and participating with junior achievement, because the more you learn, the better off you are. So that's me. And I think I'll be handing it back to Dalton, I believe, right?
Yeah, thank you, Juanita, and thanks to all of you for sharing a little bit about your career journeys and yourselves. And I think what we'll do now is we'll move into answering a couple questions that might be on some of your minds. We'll spend about 20 minutes on this, so I think we'll spend about 5 minutes on each question, and we'll try to get 1 or 2 panelists' perspectives on each question. And maybe we'll just start with the question of, you know, what lessons have you learned in your career? Are there any kind of key lessons you can think about for this audience? And maybe Juanita will come back to yourself to kick that one off.
Sure. Thank you, Dalton. So as I step back and think about my career and my life, because I kind of see those as 2 sides to the same coin, I think I have 2 very simple things as what I would impart to you all. And I'm going to draw on something that Mel said earlier. The first thing is, I think it's really important to always be open to trying new things and trying new experiences. I've found that, you know, like many of my colleagues on the phone, you don't always know what you want to do, and you don't know what you'll like. So if you don't try new things, you might not find the thing that interests you best. And I will say that sometimes the jobs that I thought I would like the least turned out to be the jobs I liked the best. So I would impart, don't stay and focus on just things that are familiar to you, but try new things, because you can only learn more about yourself. And the second point I'll make about a lesson I've learned is that every job or experience I've had, I've always focused on what can I learn from that. And sometimes even jobs that I hated, and there were a couple of jobs I hated as I tried to find my way in life. But as I focused on what I could learn from those jobs, I really realized that even bad experiences, whether it's a job or a course you took in college or a class you take in high school, if you really focus on what you can learn from that, then you really get a lot out of that. And I would say that learning is not just about technical learning, like facts and statistics or anything like that, but turning it to also focusing on learning about yourself, right? So what kind of things do you like? What kind of things do you not like, which is just as important to know. And also, what kind of environments do you thrive in, right? And those are the things I learned in my first two jobs that led me to finding my way to Merck. And knowing when I was interviewing with Merck when I was in my later 20s is being able to identify that Merck was a good fit for me, both from a career perspective and from a culture perspective, helped me make better decisions. So those are the two things that I feel like I've learned over my many years on this earth, and I hope that that's helpful to you guys.
Awesome. And Mel, any perspectives on this one?
Yeah, in the interest of time, because I think we're at 10, almost 10:30, so I'm going to list three things and try to give you context so that you get it. But for me, there's so many learnings. It was hard to kind of narrow it down to just three. But I would say that the first one is find what you love. And I think you've heard that from several of the panelists. Find what you love. And it may not be what your parents want. It may be something very different. And so you have to experiment and you have to try new things and you have to do different internships and keep trying until you find that thing that makes your light shine bright. For me, I was always going to be a chemical engineer. I was always going to be in the sciences. I loved math, just like Caroline. And I was always going to be an engineer like my dad. And one summer at 15, I interned at he had a business as well. And I interned there and learned so many accounting concepts just from common sense. And I realized that was my passion. And I've never looked back since. So my college degree was in accounting and I've continued. So the first thing is experiment, do things, be open, learn, because you never know when that passion will find you, and pursue that, because then work is no longer work, it becomes fun. Second is recognize that you will never be perfect and be okay with that. You're going to keep learning, you're going to keep growing. All of us on this panel learn every day. Yesterday was a huge learning day for me. I learned from my teams. You keep learning and you just keep an open mind to be better and better every day. And don't be hard on yourself, right? We're all not perfect and we never will be. And the third one that I think is super, super important, and one that I learned later in my career, and if I were to look back, I wish I knew it earlier on, is to embrace failure. You know, I think the greatest growth comes from failure. And as we celebrate successes, but I actually would love if we started to celebrate failures and really look for learning and growth to come from that. And so in the interest of time, those are my three top that I try to narrow down on my learnings. Like I said, it's every day you learn something else. And so with that, I will pass it back to Dalton.
Yeah, no, so thank you, Mel. Excellent life lessons. So maybe we'll move to the second question then, and really as you think about maybe your younger selves when you were in school or in high school, and kind of think if there's a skill set for this audience of high school students that you think is most relevant, and particularly maybe you can also comment on technology and the role that that's playing in the workforce and in finance today. Would love to get those perspectives. So maybe we'll start with Shushil.
Shushil, you're on mute.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Um, yes, I think when I started my career, I think what was important back then was knowledge and information. And once you had that about the subjects, that knowledge, you had a reasonable opportunity to get a good job. And termed it as call it your IQ, intelligent quotient. I think while that is still necessary even today, I feel the other quotients of sort of human nature have become so much more important, like your emotional quotient, your social quotient. And I think Melanie talked about your, adversity quotient, how you bounce back when you are met with challenges. It's so much very important in life. And I almost feels like, your IQ stands on the rest of the three, and that becomes your foundation. So unless that foundation is stable, you don't do justice to your sort of information, knowledge, and intelligence. So if I have to look back and the sort of the importance probably I gave myself to how much should I know, and versus how should I build myself, personality, character. And this is self-training. Some of you get it very naturally, but some of you have to build it very consciously. And I think those things are very, very important to me in terms of building yourself for future. I think the sort of the way to summarize in my mind, kind of IQ builds road for you, but the other three quotients, such as emotional, social, and adversity quotient, they build you for the road, and very long-term road. I think that is my sort of lesson. And quickly on technology, Dalton, I mean, that's a common language today. It has become part and parcel of your life. Any job that you do, you need to be savvy and understanding of that. Um, so, you know, and you need to keep up with it from time to time, like all of us have seen it. It's not learning once and just staying put. So that I think those would be my tidbits for sharing. Thank you.
Okay, and Caroline, any thoughts?
So I'll build actually on what Sushil had said, and some of the comments from the panelists already. I think the skills that are really important are, number one, be curious. Be willing to push yourself into areas that you don't know and learn about them and find out about them. I'd say number two, be passionate. If you've got energy for something, you're going to put your heart and soul into it, so you'll be your best self at that. And I think if others see you do that, they'll want to help you be your best self at it as well. I think being tech savvy is critical. In all that we do, we're on our computers using technology to do our work, to interact with others. So you having the ability and the desire to want to enable tech to work for you is a critical skill set to enable your effectiveness in the workplace. I think the emotional quotient and the broader who you are is really important. So consider what you do outside of the curriculum of school to help form who you are, and whether that's you're in teams, whether it's what you're doing to show up in a band or a music forum, or whether it's what you're doing in your community. They're forming the full you that helps us see you for the full human being you are. And to Juanita's point, on the cultural fit you may have with an organization. And I think the final one, which I feel is really important, is how you communicate. The world is about first impressions often. It's about how you engage with others and how you help others follow you in enabling things to happen. And communication skills are so important in that. And I'd advise all of you to use every moment to hone your communication skills, whether that's you're at home just conversing with your loved ones, how you're making those messages. Pick up the phone and speak with someone to see, how am I in my communications when I'm on a telephone? Does my voice bring out the passion, energy? Because you may be doing interviews with people now over the phone, and then it's in this kind of format. So get comfortable when you're on a Zoom or on a WebEx type forum, so that people can see you and be inspired by who you are. So those would be the key skill set I think we look for today and companies are looking for.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Susil and Caroline. So maybe we'll move to our third question now, which is really all of us have been impacted in many ways by COVID-19. Certainly at Junior Achievement, I know sessions like this, we did one like this a couple years ago. We did it in the office. Today we're doing it virtually. I think at work, likewise, we have had to adapt very quickly. And maybe I'll just ask, we'll start with Susil to give a couple comments on COVID-19 and what it's meant to him.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we are going through unprecedented times. It's pretty tragic. The business environment has been affected very, very negatively. It, of course, differs from business to business how the impact has been. We've seen the companies like Apple, the biggest company on the planet, hasn't escaped that impact. But at the same time, companies like Amazon have been on the hiring spree in this period to just keep up to their demand of work. So the impact has differed. But we have also seen world adjusting to that impact very fast. We don't know how this is going to exactly evolve, and there is a lot to be done to know that, and we are doing that. I know we as a company in Merck have accepted the challenge and trying to find scientific solutions to it. We were also severely impacted. We had to keep our labs closed for a while. But we are back now to work as much as we could to attend to those challenges which world is facing today. Um, I just feel I'm probably eternal optimist here. I just feel the world will bounce back whenever there are these kind of challenges. We will bounce back, and probably will bounce back with vengeance. And we will adjust, and we will be creative in our adjustments, the way we work in future. The time that will take, I can't predict, and I think we've seen people can't predict, but just my guess is the world will be more productive coming out of it than the other way around is how I would put it. Thank you.
Okay, and Caroline?
So I think Sushil eloquently talked about the impact, both positive and negative, that COVID has had on elements of business. I think I want to start with it's a really hard time in this world, and quite frankly, it's a scary time in this world. And it's important for all of us that we have people that we can confide in and talk to about that, because these are unprecedented times. For me personally, I've traveled the world, as I talked about earlier, and what you appreciate now is the world has become really small. The world is in, this is my new satellite headquarters of Merck. This is my one location in the world, which has made the world quite small. On the other hand, it's made the world feel so huge that I can't get back home to England and put my arms around my dad, right? And that's tough. So the first message I'd give to everyone is we're in extraordinary times, and it's during these extraordinary times we all need to find the opportunity to confide our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs in others. Because collectively, if we do that, we'll all get through this in a much better way. And I agree with Sushil. I believe the world will come through this at some stage in a better place, because we've got so many good human beings in this world that want to do good for this world. What I think it means for the workplace and for people like you in how you're thinking about the future, I actually think it can create a real opportunity. And I was in a meeting at work where there was a number of us in this meeting, and a member of the team really commented on how this new way of working has broken down barriers, because it's not like one of us is sitting in this big, intimidating office that we've then got to go to share our idea. We are now all same-sized boxes on a screen talking to one another. And I think that's really powerful, to just break down hierarchy and break down some of these more barriers that maybe are real, maybe are perceived, but barriers in the way that we work. It will break down geographic barriers, because we don't always have to be in the same office together to get things done. Yes, there's benefit in coming together at times, but we've shown as a company and as a team, we can do a lot of great things virtually. So I actually think we'll come through this with a much more flexible working environment, which may open opportunities for all of you. If you're thinking, I'm located here and I'm only prepared to move a radius of 50 miles around that, maybe my radius becomes much larger because I don't have to travel day in, day out. So my hope is we can all find ways to make this crisis something that we'll all benefit from in the future. And our company is actually actively working on how we can enable that. So those are the themes, Dalton. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. And that was excellent. And especially, you know, I would like to build off your comments on breaking down barriers, and different companies do that in different ways. I think at Merck, we are a company who is very committed to diversity and inclusion. I think you can see it in the group that's speaking to you today. Hopefully you hear it in their examples like Caroline just gave you. And I thought maybe I would ask Melanie just to share on her perspectives on what diversity inclusion means to her, especially in light of some of the events that are going on in the world today.
Thank you, Dalton. Diversity and inclusion for me, you know, a lot of times, or throughout, you know, when I was 15 or 16, I don't know if it was as important, especially growing up in Guyana, because everybody looked the same for the most part. So diversity as we know it today wasn't quite the same. Coming to the US, I looked important. And so for me, you can't, diversity is one thing, having a diverse, looking at the panel, we're all very different, not just in color or race, but in background. Caroline is from England, I'm from Guyana, Sushil is from India, Juanita is from New York, Dalton had parents that were teachers. You can see just by the mere backgrounds of the panel is that we're all diverse thinking people. We all have different backgrounds. So it's not just a race or a color thing, but it's diversity of thought, which encompasses color and race, because if that's the whole background and whatnot. But to me, what's more important than that is inclusion. I don't think you can have, diversity doesn't have power if you don't have inclusion. And what that means is that you have an open forum where you can truly be authentic and you are truly included, whether it be in decision makings, whether you're allowed to speak up, whether you feel it's a safe environment. And so for me, I'll speak first from my perspective, I'll watch the clock, but for me, Merck provides that safe space where I truly believe that I can bring my true self to work. It is actually one of the first companies where I feel so comfortable really sharing my authentic feelings about this whole event, which quite frankly, the George Floyd situation has been so sensitive and so emotional for so many of us, especially parents with children your age, when we have to explain what that means and why it's different for you of color and whatnot. But Merck makes it a safe place where we can speak. As a leader, I also think that it's important that I create that exact same space for people that are on our teams, right? Encourage them to speak up. I've been so humbled by the response that I've gotten, not just from people of color, but from my non-white, people of color colleagues. So my white colleagues, my Asian colleagues, people on the teams that feel so compelled and compassionate even to raise their hands and say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. So what that highlights is that Merck and the leadership on this panel, we all create a safe space where it is okay to speak up, to share how you feel, and more importantly, to feel supported in whatever or wherever you are in this journey about learning it. So diversity and inclusion go together. Diversity is having diverse thought. Inclusion is actually creating a space where you're all included in decision making, in participating, in speaking up. You're part of a team. And so I think Merck does a really nice job of supporting that. Both me as a participant in the Merck family and also as a leader, allowing my teams to do the same. Dalton?
Wow, that was awesome, Melanie. Yeah, thank you very much for those important comments. And maybe I'll just add a few things and then we'll move to our Q&A session. I'm still learning about diversity every day and what it means to be a leader in a global company where we all share and come to work every day with different perspectives. And And I think I want to echo Mel's comments about inclusion. You know, there's people Mel and I work next to one another every day. And we never take that for granted. But when the events of George Floyd came up, we actually opened conversation around what does this mean to Mel? What does it mean to her husband? What does it mean to her family? And I think what that shows is, and what the response we've gotten, the closeness we've got as a team around this, has been exceptional. So this is an area where I continue to learn. I think Merck is very committed to diversity and inclusion. I encourage all of you, I think as you've heard through some of the speakers today, sometimes when you think about your career, it's easy to just think about the technical skills. I think Sushil pointed this out nicely. You know, I'm going to go learn this technical skill. But I think what you're hearing is the skills that really create value for the long term for your company and for yourselves as a leaders are some of the other things you heard today around continuous learning. And I think diversity and inclusion is another very, very, very important one, because leaders who can get the best out of the people next to them, leaders who can connect with the people next to them to understand how they feel and care for them, are skill sets that will really just help you transcend through your careers. So, so with that and with those thoughts, again, I want to thank our panelists for their time they spent on these questions. We also know our audience may have some very important questions. We can build off things we've started on or answer anything else that might be on your mind. And maybe I'll turn it back to Stephanie just to kick us off with any questions that are coming through through the chat.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dalton. So just a reminder, feel free to send in those questions in the Q&A box. While we have some more coming in, I'll kick it off by saying, and we'll see, you know, we can maybe panelists just raise their hands and I'll throw it over to you to answer. Who wants to share what is your most rewarding part of your work at Merck? Whoever wants to take that, go for it.
Yeah.
I think I see Caroline there.
I'm happy to start the conversation, and I'd say two things. The happiest part of my work is first and foremost working for a company that I truly believe in. Merck is a special company because of what we do and how we do it. We truly are there to save and improve people's lives around the world. And you feel that. You feel that in every subsidiary, every Merck unit around the world that you go to. So there's a real element of pride coming into the office or in our virtual office and know you're working for a company that's trying to cure cancer, that's here trying to find a vaccine to help against COVID-19. We're here to do so many good things in this world. So that's the first thing I'd say, the pride for connecting with an organization that is special. The second thing I'd say is the people. And Dalton just touched on it really, really well. It's great to come to work, and Mel used this word, to feel you're part of a family. We are a group of colleagues that together have created, I think, real unity in trying to help each other to just do good in the workplace and do good in this world. So beyond, it's great to come and put your analytical skills into play, your treasury skills, your tax skills, whatever they are. There's some special themes about our company, and it's how we come together as a team to really deliver good things. And those would be the two best attributes of my experiences here at Merck.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Did anybody have anything you wanted to add before I go to the next question?
I was going to talk about the family and the fact that even though I've been at Merck only less than 5 years, I consider a lot of people at Merck to be my friends. And I think when you can work in an environment, even Dalton has been my manager for less than a year, and I just have so much profound respect for Dalton and the rest of the leadership, that I think being part of an organization like that is just truly fulfilling. You're happy to go to work every day. Your engagement levels are, and that's what you want. You want that for your life.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we have a question from Kavya, who wants to know, how do you nurture and balance career and personal growth? So whoever wants to take that can go for it. Balancing career and personal growth.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, maybe I can go for it. Balance and career and personal growth. Was that the question? If I heard it well?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we used to use the term earlier, work-life balance, right? I think that was like 5 years ago. We sometimes use that, but what we really mean is integration of work and life. They've mingled together. It is very difficult to draw a distinguishing line nowadays, that you can really say that this is work and this is life. I mean, when you get up at 6 o'clock, you start thinking about your work, and when you are at work, you keep thinking about your life. I think it is important to find employers like Merck where you can integrate that at your convenience and to the best of your abilities, and find a work environment that is supportive of this from time to time. Of course, you need to count on your family, you need to take them into consideration, and help each other, especially if you're a working couple. That becomes even more important. um, I don't think there is a formula there, and at each stage of life it poses sort of different challenges. But as long as you have a work environment which is supportive of that philosophy, that it allows you to integrate work and life, and you have a family members where you can trust each other and hold hands, this actually becomes a fabulous journey. You just don't call it work and life. You say, let it integrate. I'll let it mingle, and I'll take each day as it comes, and it works.
So,
Thank
Stephanie,
you.
can I add to what Sushil was just saying?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So it's funny, when I first started working at Merck, I was a brand new mom. And I know the question is broader than family and personal life, but I was a brand new mom coming in as part of an MBA recruitment class where there were no other moms, brand new moms or brand new parents. So I feel like I had a heavier load than others. And during the course of my 20-some odd years with Merck, I raised 3 children, but I raised them as the primary caregiver and without any family or nannies or anything like that. And I think the 3 things I would say that helped me get through that, and throughout that time I worked full time, so I never even stepped back. One thing is, and to be very practical, you have to be organized, right? If you want to have a balanced life, whether it's work and family or work and interests or whatever it is, you have to be organized. Second, it's really important that you communicate. You have to communicate with your manager. You have to communicate with your colleagues so that things don't fall through the cracks. You just can't assume that you're just going to go off and do your thing and they're going to pick up the pieces or balance with you, right? And the third thing I would say is, and this goes back to something Mel said earlier, is you have to give yourself a break, right? You can't expect that you're always going to be the best at work, the best in your personal life, and do everything to everyone else's standards. You have to accept that there are going to be certain things that are not going to get done the way they might have been if that was the only thing you focused on, and forgive yourself. And if you have that kind of organized communication and forgiveness, you can get a ton accomplished. So those are my thoughts.
May I add one more to that, please, Stephanie? So it's a really important question. And it's a question that, to Juanita's point, the impact of it changes as your life unfolds. I remember when I joined Merck and thinking about I had to work these prescribed hours day in, day out, and thought, how could I do those prescribed hours and do the other fun stuff I wanted to do outside of work? And then as you move on in your life, you think about how can I do it, work, while I do have my family and raise our children and do the other interests you want. So I think on the point of communication, it's really important that work understands outside of work and outside of work understands work, so that you can make those trade-offs. So I've had the pleasure, like Sushil, we've traveled the world. I did that because my family understood the work element and supported me in that. And there's been times when I have taken time off for our family, and work understood that and supported that from the family side. So that's one element I'd say. The other element I think is really important, and I'm going to use a real life example in our team right now, is we're in a new environment. And we're in an environment where we will not, I don't believe, show up to an office day in, day out for our careers in the future. I think the world has shown there's different ways of operating. And there's a member of our team who is actually, Juanita, a few years back, a new MBA hire to our company who has just had her first baby. And COVID has hit at a time where she doesn't have a nanny and she's trying to get everything done. And what we're working on is not, you've worked from 9 till 5. It's, this is the output you need to get done for our company that's going to have impact. Do it at a time that works for you so that you're delivering for our company what we need to, but she's also being a mom and enjoying that special time. So I just want to give people, I think, hope and confidence. You can have it all. You might not be a grade A at this and a grade A at that, but you can have it all. And I think there will be increasing flexibility in the workplace in the future to enable it.
Fantastic. So in the interest of time, I have 2 more questions that came in. I'm going to combine them because they are a little bit similar. So Mitali wants to know, when did you all know that business was your passion or a field that you wanted to major in? And similarly, Prayang wants to know, how do you find your passion? So that's a great question, and we'll maybe say one, while you think of an answer, and whoever wants to answer that, I will just remind our panel before we wrap up today, I am going to take a little screenshot, a little photo of our group today. So don't hang up right away, right at 11. So anybody want to take that last question?
So Stephanie, I can lead. This is Dalton. I'll just say 2 quick things. One is, when I was in school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I still don't in some regards. I'm still learning. I'm still finding my passion. But I did one thing I did when I picked my major in college. I actually picked accounting because I felt like it was the language of business. So it was broad. It would help me understand what's happening in a business, and I knew from there I could do many different things. So that was one thing that just kind of helped me early on. But I still think I'm searching for my passion every day, and it changes over time. But I'll hand it to others.
So I'll just say that when I went to college, I graduated with a liberal arts degree, so not something that would really qualify you necessarily for business. And I had a couple of jobs in the city, and I think it was through those jobs that I realized I had exposure to different aspects of business. And I decided I liked that. So then I made the choice to get my MBA because it's hard to make headroads into real business responsibilities when you have a liberal arts degree. By the way, that was in psychology, so really not quite business. And then the MBA helped me find my way. So it's really just through experimentation that I found my way to business, and that wasn't until my mid-20s.
Fantastic. So we're just nearing the end of our time here. I do have one more question. It's a great question. I want to just try and squeeze it in. So maybe if I can have one answer this really quickly. And this is a tough one, but what advice or any tips do you have for a high school student who's looking to stay irreplaceable in tomorrow's job market? How can we teach our future? How can they stay employed in the workplace of tomorrow? And I know that's a huge question with like how do we sum that up?
I can go quickly, and I'm sure Dalton and Caroline can probably make my answer a little bit better. But I think that, we hear a lot about technology, artificial intelligence. We hear about robots. If you really think about it, data analytics as the way we know it today, in the future, computers will be analyzing and doing a lot of what we do today. What computers, though, can't replace is the emotional intelligence, which is what we talked about earlier, and those skills that bringing people together, being that authentic leader, promoting diverse thought, which you can help augment the technology, but you need that human touch. And so I encourage high school students to think about your career in terms of those softer skills that you can marry up with your technical skills, but you always need that human touch that that a computer can't replace. And you need that strategic. You need to be able to connect the dots. You need to be able to be a continuous learner, so you're keeping up with the technology, and just be open to new opportunities. And as the world changes, you have that flexibility and adaptability to adjust with the world as it moves. And if you have that sort of open mindset, you will always find a niche that you can fit into, where you're continuous learning, you're embracing failure, you're doing things that a computer just can't do. So that's my little 1 minute answer.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Melanie. So we are just over the time here. So Dalton, if you wanted to, wrap up, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get us ready for a quick photo op, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, again, I just want to say thank you. First, maybe I'll thank our panelists first. Caroline, Melanie, Sushil, Juanita, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules. To our high school students, I encourage, there were a lot of learnings today. You heard it around continuous learning, trying new things, communication, feedback, and creating kind of inclusive environments on top of what you learn from a technical perspective. We're here to help at Merck, and so we're going to continue to support JA. If any of you, you know who we are, and so if any of you ever want to reach out and have a conversation, you can reach us through JA. I'd encourage you to do that, and we'll continue to look to do other events with JA moving forward. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dalton. So I am going to, on the count of 3, we'll do a little screenshot here. So I'm going to ask our panel. All right, 1, 2, 3. Let me just make sure I did that right. Fantastic. Looks great. So with that, thank you all so much for your time today. Take care.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Good luck. Thank you so much.